All right. What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to the PT on Ice Daily Show. I am Dr. Jeff Moore, currently serving as the CEO of ICE, lead faculty for cervical and lumbar spine divisions. Great to be here on a Leadership Thursday. It is Thursday, so as always, we've got to kick that off with Gut Check Thursday. Alan programmed a good one this week. It's going to be fun. It's a dumbbell workout, not a barbell workout. So we've got a dumbbell workout. It's going to be 50-35. So 50 for the gents, 35 for the gals. It's going to be 8 hang clean and jerks. So 8 dumbbell hang clean and jerks. So we're going to pull from the hang position to the shoulder. We're going to press that above our head. Then we're going to knock out 8 suitcase lunges. So we're going to hold that weight to our side, knock out 8 lunges, repeat on the other side, okay, and then knock out 15 burpees, 4 rounds for time. So it should be a fun little dumbbell workout, throwing in some burpees, which seems to be kind of the use. We're going to knock that out, trying to eyeball that maybe like 12 to 14 minutes, although I am notoriously all over the place when it comes to my estimated time. So that's Gut Check Thursday. As far as upcoming courses, I got a whole bunch of them, but a few of them are next weekend, not this weekend, next weekend. If you want to catch cervical spine, Zach Morgan's going to be teaching that in Manhattan, Kansas. August 31st will be the start of CMFA Advanced Concepts, which is turning out to be quite a good-sized crew. Same with September 2nd's Modern Management of the Older Adult Essential Foundation. So both of those are 8-week online courses. So let us know if you want to jump into those. ptonice.com as always. So welcome to Leadership Thursday. Today I want to talk a bit about this idea of what if you didn't have to sleep on it? I think it's fair to say that we struggle with constructive debate or discussion in our profession. I mean, a quick tracking of Twitter seems to reveal that, right? But if 2020 has shown us anything, this is an issue that extends well beyond our profession to our greater society from which our profession is born. We have a real challenge engaging in constructive debate / argument, right? And this is a bummer because there's probably nothing more wonderful and more important than debate, right? I mean, when the intent is mutual growth, it's probably the most enjoyable, productive, and important of all interactions that we take part in. Yet we really struggle to do it well. And I guess that comes down to the question of, well, what's the difference? Like, what makes debating either our highest or our lowest form of engagement? Like, what drives that? And per usual, we can only work on ourselves, right? So trying to think about from the perspective that you're bringing into the environment, what creates that environment where either a debate winds up being incredibly constructive and fruitful, right? Or winds up in a lot of negative emotion and negative sequela that were never the intention of the debate. Foundationally, it rests on this idea of not wanting to be right. Right. That's the crux of all of this, right? The goal has to be to stop wanting to be right. Now, this is different than just not trying to be right, right? The desire to actually not want to be right is a lot deeper. And it comes from being a growth-minded person. Right. And I know that so many / all of you are, like everyone who engages on this show. I mean, you're here to get better. You're showing up to challenge yourself, to be a part of these lively discussions. If you are a growth-minded person, the only completely useless interaction that you could ever have is one where you are entirely right. Let that sink in, right? The only completely useless interaction that you could ever have is one in which you are entirely right. Because that is the only type of interaction where you learn absolutely nothing. Right? If you were talking the whole time, right, and it was decided at the end that you were entirely right, that is the worst possible outcome for an authentically growth-minded person. Right? If you are engaging in your daily life with the intent to get better, right, the only outcome that leads to that in no way whatsoever is the one in which you are entirely right. So the more you can embrace that reality and that truth, that when you go into these situations where there's going to be discourse, right? There's going to be challenge, there's going to be different positions. The one thing you don't want for sure is to be right, because that's the only way that you know that you won't learn anything. So if we can get rid of that desire and instead go into these conversations with a desire to learn, change, grow, okay, that would shift everything. And you can make that shift, right? But to learn, you've got to be curious. Curious about how somebody else developed their beliefs or why somebody else holds a different position. It is ultimately curiosity in debate that is the antidote to anger that tends to be where so many of these conversations wind up. It is this little switch. It's a simple switch, but it's a critical one. When you're feeling that frustration in the middle of a debate, in the middle of an argument, right? When you start to feel that well up inside of you, it's the simple switch from why can't you see what I'm trying to tell you? Right? Which tends to be where the ego-driven mind lives, right? Why can't you see what I'm trying to tell you? The simple switch to why can't I see what you're trying to tell me? It's a small switch, but it's a critical shift, right? In the way that you're looking at the interaction. Why can't you see what I'm trying to tell you? To, gosh, I feel the frustration. That's real. That's living in me. But that frustration is living in why can't I see what you're trying to tell me? To get yourself to make that switch, you've got to understand and embody that different circumstances will always create different perspectives, right? How could they not? And since perspective is reality, there are different realities that are abundant. If this is true, then one person's view, one person's perspective can never be entirely accurate. In other words, there is no one right or wrong. And if you can appreciate that, right, it can really drive your curiosity and desire to understand the other individual's perspective, because you know that ultimately the best view is going to be the collective view that helps the most people in the most important way. This is going to be a consensus view. And this is what you're seeking in your debate. You're not seeking to be right or wrong, right? You're seeking to find this collective, this consensus, right? That when understood, utilizing it helps the most people in the most important way. But it is that shift from why can't you see what I'm trying to tell you to why am I having such a hard time seeing what you're trying to tell me? Because the second one drives questions, right? Where are you coming from? Right? What experience have you had that I haven't? Right? That drives that belief that is so different from mine. Why am I having such a hard time seeing what you're trying to tell me? Because that means that the frustration is now under your control. If you go with the first one, why can't you see what I'm trying to tell you? Right? That is very much an external locus of control, right? You feeling better is only a result of somebody else changing. But if you go to why can't I see what you're trying to tell me? Now that frustration you're feeling inside of you is drivable, is modifiable by your behavior. You can ask other questions about them. You can try to see it from a different angle. You can now quell your own frustration in real time because it becomes about your limitation and why you can't see the other person's perspective. Now, this is important, right? Because failure to execute on this, if you don't have this desire to wind up different, right? And that's what it is, right? It's a vulnerability to allow people to change you, because that's actual growth. Going into these conversations, going into these debates with a desire and a willingness for the other person to change you, for your puzzle pieces to be shuffled around, a desire to walk away different than how you walked in. Understand, a lot of people do not come to confrontations with that end game. And that's why we have these ego-driven fights, as opposed to these really constructive discussions, because we aren't looking for the greatest collective consensus, right? We're looking to walk away being right, and nothing good comes out of that. Now, my last comment on this is that it matters because failure to execute like this, right? Allowing ego to drive, trying to be right, living in that external locus, unfortunate position, living in that world leads to anger, right? And if you're at least heeding the advice of when you do get really mad in these discussions, to sleep on it, right? To kind of pull the reins back, take a breather and sleep on it, which I do ultimately think if you can't control your own internal frustrations because you're not making these switches, it is a good idea if you get really mad to pause, right? And sleep on it. But there is a massive benefit to not having to do that, because having to pull away, right? Realizing your ego has gotten control of you, realizing you've lost it, and having to pull away, which probably is the right call in that environment, but losing it and having to pull away means you have to leave the conversation. Okay, this is a major problem because while you might sleep on it and tomorrow you might give an answer, right? Or your response, right? What you're not going to do is you're not going to go back to the trenches. Like you're not going to get down where you were peeling layers off one another and you were getting down to the real good stuff, right? The things that were drivers of these beliefs. You are not going to go back there. So essentially you have truncated each other's growth because you couldn't make these shifts in perspective. Make no mistake about it. The longer you can stay in those challenging spaces respectfully, the deeper you can go, the more you can let yourself be molded by the other party, the more growth happens for everybody. The more the collective consensus helps more people because more perspectives were considered. The more that comes out of the interaction. The earlier you have to leave because you couldn't do these things, the less you get out of the discussion. The less your relationship with the other party deepens, right? The shallower the team becomes. Not having to sleep on it because you're leveraging these tactics is ultimately what allows so much depth to be created. There's nothing easy about this because ego wants to drive. But if you honestly go into these discussions looking to be different, everything about the way you engage changes and the result is so much more fruitful. And I think that our profession and our society really needs to think about some of this stuff. But I'm just going to encourage you to think about it, right? When you're going into these conversations, don't want to be right. Want to come out different, right? Let curiosity be the antidote for anger. Make the switch. Stop thinking, why can't you see what I'm trying to tell you? And start thinking, why am I having such a hard time seeing what you're trying to tell me? Understand that different perspectives create different realities, so there isn't one reality. Your reality isn't right. Your reality is one. Yeah? The more realities you understand, the more you behave in a way that helps most people. Think about this stuff. We've got to debate differently. It's got to become our highest form of engagement, not our lowest form of engagement. And I'm seeing so much of it being our lowest form of engagement. Let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed having the conversation with you. ptonice.com as always. We'd love to see you at a course in the near future. South College, we are coming at you. It is Thursday. We will be there on Saturday. MSK3 starts on Sunday. Cannot wait to be in Knoxville. Thanks everybody for being here. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.